just got out of theaters from seeing a brand new film from the world of John Wick, Ballerina, on the big screen, and I have some things that I want to discuss about this film, guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the movie review. Let's go. Ballerina is a new action thriller film directed by Wiseman that stars Armas as the character of Eve Macarro, a woman trained in the assassin traditions of the Ruska Roma. And in this film, we see Eve Macarro takes on an army of killers as she seeks revenge against those responsible for the death of her father. So as you can imagine, this is a revenge plot movie, and if you're wondering how this fits into the world of John Wick, well, this movie actually takes place during the events of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Now, with that being said, there's a lot to love about this movie, especially if you're a John Wick fan. So let's just jump into my positives for Ballerina. And for my first positive with this film, I want to talk about Armas herself playing the character as Eve Macarro. Now, I love the way this film sets up the character of Eve. It completely explains to you her tragic backstory, the sad events that happens with her father passing away, and who's responsible for it. And it really makes it apparent to the viewer why she is making the decisions that she makes inside of this film, where that drive to keep going after her enemy comes from, and why she would seemingly at times almost throw her life away just to accomplish this goal in her mind of getting revenge for her father and taking out her father's killers. Now, in terms of the performance from Armas, she is fantastic inside of this movie. She definitely holds her own as the main character. You could see why after watching this movie, why she was the perfect choice in an actress for this type of role. Now, I also love the way you see her grow up inside of this movie. You see her learn her skills. As we mentioned in the synopsis, you see her being trained in the art of an assassin by the Ruska Roma family, as we can call them inside of this movie, which of course we got a glimpse of them inside John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. So the way that this movie blends those two together was fantastic. I loved it as a fan of this franchise, and of course, being the lead in a John Wick style action film, this role is very physically demanding and she makes it believable. They even explain at one point, hey, you can't fight a man one-on-one how a man would fight a man. You have to take a different approach to it to get the job done, and we see her do that inside of this movie, so that was a very nice touch. Now, let's go ahead and jump into my next positive for this film. And for my next positive with this film, I want to talk about the action. Look, this is an action thriller, right? So how is the action compared to the rest of the John Wick franchise, being as it's one of the best action franchises, not only in modern day currently going, but in my opinion, of all time? Well, I have to tell you, it is very respectful, very honorable to the John Wick franchise in its depiction of the action. They had to have brought some of the same choreography guys in here, because when it comes to the gunplay, the martial arts, all of that stuff is there inside of this movie, and it's all amazing to see on the big screen. Now, we see Eve working on her martial arts. She's hitting the bag. She's using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which if you know anything about Jiu-Jitsu, it matters less about size compared to other martial arts. So it's the perfect tool, the perfect martial art for her to learn and utilize against her enemy, considering a majority of them are going to be men inside of this film. Right now, I will say that the gunplay is still slightly better when it comes to Keanu Reeves, when it comes to the John Wick films, but it's still really good here, and it's definitely still serviceable to the John Wick fans and the John Wick franchise as a whole. Now, another part that I really appreciated and liked about the action side of this film is the fact that they use different weapons that we've never seen inside the John Wick films before, at least from Keanu Reeves, John Wick himself, using these weapons such as grenades and other things like that. It gets very creative with the kills inside of this movie. We see Eve Macarro use anything and everything in her environment, and honestly, after watching this film, we got some of the best kill scenes we've gotten throughout the entire John Wick franchise inside of the Ballerina. Not to mention the action is fast paced. There's hardly any downtime in this film where you're getting bored in your seat, because there's always something exciting happening on screen for the most part when you go out and see this movie. Now, when it comes to the action and when it comes to Eve's character, what I noticed in particular about these two positives that I'm telling you guys right now is the fact that you can tell that Eve is new to this life. You can tell that she's new to all of this. We even watch her go on her first mission, second mission, third mission. You know, she's just getting out in the field for the very first time in her assassin career. So of course she's going to make some mistakes along the way, right? Well, yes, you definitely get to see that inside of this movie. During certain fight scenes, she makes certain decisions where if she went about it in a different way, that she would have gotten the job done much easier. But because she's new to this, she makes mistakes along the way, which was nice to see inside of this film. It kept it more realistic. She even gets beat up during a lot of the sequences here, and she's not just outright destroying anybody for the most part, considering she's going up against other trained people in this line of work. Now, with that being said, let's move into my next positive for the Ballerina, and it would have to be Keanu Reeves. Now, of course, if you've seen the trailer for this film, we knew Keanu Reeves was going to be inside of this film, of course, taking up the role of John Wick again. We were wondering where it's going to come in on the timeline. Of course, like I already stated previously, it's a part of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Now, how does Keanu Reeves do inside this film? He's fantastic. You feel the boogeyman, you feel the Baba Yaga come back inside of this film. When he makes an appearance inside of this movie, everything shifts. Every character inside of this film respects him as the boogeyman that he is, and they kind of just step to the side out of his way. Now, of course, if you watch the trailers for this film, this is not a spoiler, if you watch the trailers for this film, we know that at some point during this movie, John Wick and Eve Macarro were going to go face to face. We're going to face off inside of this film. Well, how did they do that scene? To keep it spoiler free, I'll just tell you that they were very respectful to the character of John Wick. They made it clear to the audience that there is a huge difference in skill level when it comes to someone who is as accomplished in their line of work as John Wick versus a newcomer, a beginner in Eve Macarro. And after seeing how they decided to do these scenes, I was extremely satisfied as a John Wick fan, because like I said, they were extremely respectful to the character that made this franchise what it is today. So I definitely appreciated how they handled Keanu Reeves' John Wick character. Now let's move into my next positive with this film, and that would have to be the aesthetic of this film. Now again, if you've seen the trailer, you got a small glimpse into the type of scenes that you're going to be seeing here. Flashing lights, neon lights. It is beautiful. It's gorgeous the way that this was filmed, the way that this was directed and presented to the audience. The cinematography here is fantastic. The fight choreography, the way they captured certain kill scenes inside of this movie, the camera angles that they chose was top notch. I loved it as a film fan watching this movie, which is always a bonus when the film's not only a good story, but also it's very pleasant to look at. Now, of course, hardly any movie is perfect. So now that we've talked about my positives, let's move into my negatives for the Ballerina film. And quite honestly, I only have one negative when it comes to the Ballerina film, and it would have to be the villain. Now, don't get me wrong, he's not a bad villain by any means whatsoever. He's just a mid villain. Mid meaning he's kind of in the middle. He's not great. He's not memorable. You're not going to leave this film thinking about his character. You're going to leave this film thinking about Eve Macarro, which is of course what was intended by the director and by the people who worked on this film. She is what you want to stick out in your mind, but a great villain can only elevate a film to that very next level. For instance, we've seen this in The Dark Knight. Without the Joker in that film, what really is that movie? Right now, again, they set up this revenge plot. They explain who he is and what group he is a part of. But in terms of knowing this character, after sitting through this entire film, I have really no idea who this is. This is a random guy who leads a cult, and that's really it. He runs this group of assassins, and we need to take him out and kill him, and that's really all you get when it comes to this character. So if I had to critique really any specific part of this film, that would be what I really honed in on there. But outside of that, I don't really have many other problems with this film. So let's go ahead and move into my overall review for the Ballerina movie. Look guys, as a fan of John Wick from the very beginning, and I've seen everything, I've seen all 4 John Wick movies, I've seen the Continental spin-off series. This right here, this film, The Ballerina, is a fantastic spin-off film from the John Wick franchise. I love this film start to finish. Ana de Armas is one of my favorite actresses in Hollywood. She's fantastic inside of this movie. I thought that was the perfect cast decision when it came to the main lead role for this film. I love not only the way that she portrays Eve Macarro, but more so how they set her character up, the way they explained her backstory, the way you can understand very clearly her character motivations and why she makes certain decisions that she makes inside of this film. I love the aesthetic and the pacing of this movie. It's a perfect runtime. There's hardly any downtime, as I previously stated in this film. It's more so action your entire way through, which is extremely entertaining as a movie fan. And I love the way that the action was depicted inside of this movie, the way how realistic the martial arts and the gunplay comes across, and how creative they got with the kills and the weapon choices when it came to the action inside of this movie. Now, there's also scenes that subvert your expectations. For instance, we see things inside of this movie that are very reminiscent to what we've previously seen inside the John Wick films, but anytime we get too close in similarity to a previous John Wick film, they instantly subvert the audience's expectations and bring in something that you wouldn't expect to be implemented into that particular scene, which I definitely loved. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and drop my official rating for From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. I give this film a 9 out of 10. It gets the 9 out of 10, a very, very strong rating, with the one small critique of the villain could have been fleshed out a lot more here. But overall, this is a fantastic action thriller. I loved seeing this movie in theaters. This is a movie that we could watch from years and years and years to come, especially when you're binging through that John Wick franchise. Luckily, this is not going to be a film that you have to skip when you're going through the John Wick franchise once again. Now, when I sat in that theater seat, I was beginning to get worried about how this would go. I was hoping it would live up to the John Wick franchise, and I'm glad to say that it did. You're safe to go out and see this movie as a John Wick fan. I think you're going to get a fantastic action movie here. And quite honestly, even if you haven't seen the previous John Wick films, considering that this is a spin-off, I think you can start with this movie. You can go out and see this movie and you'll completely understand, for the most part, everything that's going on, maybe outside of the fact that it takes place during John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Now, with that being said, guys, those are my thoughts on this film. I hope you enjoyed my movie review for the Ballerina, and I'd love to know your thoughts about this film down in the comment section down below. Have you seen this movie? What did you think about it? If you haven't seen it, will you be going out to see it after watching my review? Let us know all that down in the comment section down below. And if you don't know what I do here on Demigod ET, I do film and TV reactions and reviews and other movie-based content. So if you're interested in this movie-based content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.